This is Red Moon Role-Playing.
The Masks of Nyarlathotep. An extract. Written in Spanish by Gaspar Figueroa in 1543 on vellum. Figueroa was a Spaniard who had travelled to Peru with Francisco Pizarro. This was close by the body of Rizzo before she was taken to the hospital. As Sanchez had mentioned, she was in the work of translating something, and this is what it was. All of you have the chance to look at it now. According to the text, Rizzo writes, Figueroa set out to seek his own fortune following Pizarro's assassination in 1541. He was accompanied by Hernando Ruiz, Diego Garrido, Luis de Mendoza, and Pedro de Velasco, fellow conquistadors who had served with Pizarro. They travelled into the southern highlands of the Andes looking for treasures, hoping to make their fortunes before heading back to Spain and retiring in luxury. Hearing rumours of an ancient temple filled with gold, the men set off into the mountains southwest of Lake Titicaca. There, they found a pyramid surrounded by a maze-like structure of underground tunnels. The walls of the tunnels were inlaid with intricate gold carvings. The men pried out a large section of the gold, exhausting themselves in the attempt. That night, as they rested, an evil sickness befell Figueroa's companions. In the morning light they looked gaunt and death-like. Complaining of agonizing hunger, they pursued Figueroa. De Mendoza caught up with him and started to devour him like a human leech. Figueroa shot his friend in the head and fled, pausing only to snatch up as much of the gold as he could carry. Figueroa eventually arrived back in Lima, hoping to get passage home, but he was too weakened by his ordeal. Figueroa describes himself in his papers as wasted, little more than a walking corpse, a flapping tongue. I read Final Confessions as Figueroa's attempt to lift the guilt that his avarice had placed upon him. He believed that his fate and that of his companions was brought about by the desecration of a holy place, and his most fervent wish was that he could undo the damage he had inflicted. He describes how he can still hear his friends' voices crying out within human hunger, and how in the dark of the night he can hear another voice, ancient and seductive, promising him eternal life if he returns to the temple. The voice told Figueroa how to contact it, but it seems Figueroa was too afraid to ever attempt this. A postscript on these papers, written by the priest who performed Figueroa's last rites, states that Figueroa died a day after completing his final confessions. His last words were an entreaty to whatever gods were listening to forgive him his blasphemies. And that's not all. As our investigators study this piece of work that Rizzo had completed, there are two more things. One is that beside her body was a section of gold. Maybe something she had unearthed in the museum archives. Maybe that artifact that Sanchez sent her to look for, to pair with the paperwork and help translate things. Because indeed, this section of gold does have engravings on it. Markings that set it out as an ancient language far before Spanish arrived on these shores. And latterly, the third and most threatening point. With all of our investigators up in Sanchez's office, convalescing, memorializing, worrying, when the police finally arrived to take the body of De Mendoza, they search the basement. But one of these police officers speaks to you now, Felix. And he speaks in Spanish to you. And you say that you shot this man in the back of the head.
I did. I was trying to save that poor woman. He was trying to kill her.
Well, yes, clearly something was trying to bite her. That is apparent. But if I may speak to you plainly, sir?
Of course.
Where did you put the body?
The body? It was right here. I'd blown off half its head.
I'm afraid this man you described, Di Mendoza, he can't have got far.
He can't have gotten anywhere without a brain. I'm telling you, he was most definitely dead. Most definitely.
Look on the bright side, says the police officer, consoling you in a way perhaps only a cop can. At least we won't have to investigate you now for shooting someone.
And I realize, of course, what he's saying, and it certainly is true. I had no right to kill anyone. I mean, it was perhaps I was trying to save her life, but perhaps this is... But where could it have gone? Someone took it? I suppose that's possible. Maybe he had accomplices. I smile at the police officer and say, well, when you put it like that...
I suggest you and your friends get some rest, sir. It seems this was a random attack, but we will, of course, investigate it fully. And the police officer basically turns on his heel, and that's the end of the conversation.
I'm sure you will, I say as he's leaving. I'm sure you will. And I just look around with incredulity. It's just, how could this have happened? He couldn't have moved away by himself. Surely, nothing could survive that. But someone could absolutely have worked with him. But who?
Jackson mutters close by. I said they often work as groups. At the moment our back was turned, as soon as we were all in that office with Sanchez, holding ourselves together after all this, someone got in.
You're right.
Someone got in and collected the body.
Couldn't have been Larkin or anyone part of the... Well, it could absolutely be that. There's a lot of people with us, after all. We'll have to be very careful now.
There's another... I mean, obviously this disturbs me, but there's another thing that also disturbs me. I've developed a surfeit of concerns. In the translated text, De Mendoza's name actually comes up hundreds of years ago.
But that's not possible. Hundreds of years ago? I mean, some ancestor of his? This is a family thing?
Given what we've seen, I'm not ruling anything out.
Yeah, I don't think that it's not possible phrase applies to where we are in our current level of awareness of events.
And didn't we hear about Heuschober, the fat vampires? I mean, is this one of those?
Jackson nods at that. Carrie, you're right. Local folklore. Vampires that prowl around the Andes, draining fat from their victims.
So not just stories, then. I light up a cigarette and I take a deep, deep drag.
Look, I'm not on board to believe absolutely everything, Jackson says. But you just shot a man who had a mouth like a lamprey. Let's not pretend that anything that you have experienced today is normal.
No, it's definitely not normal. No.
And this may be the first time in your life, Shelby, that Rupert hasn't piped up with some kind of innuendo about knowing a man with a mouth like a lamprey. Instead, he just has another drink and shakes his head. And then he speaks up. This is all a bit too much for me.
Do you need to go back home?
I'm not saying that. I don't want to cut our holidays short, Shelley. But I really wasn't anticipating being involved in an attempted murder. On the right side of an attempted murder, I will say, if there is the right side of one. I feel rather shaken. Look, and he holds his hand out to demonstrate that it is shaking slightly. And I wasn't even there.
Indeed, this is... You made a joke about me writing an adventure story after we did all this, and now it doesn't seem so funny.
No one would buy this.
That's true. Speaking of buying, actually, and suddenly I become a brief flash of anger as I realize something. And I turn to Jackson. Did Maciej also know these kinds of things exist?
Not as anything other than folklore. No, not to my knowledge, but you remember the professor said that he was, he kept pressing to be a part of this expedition. Maybe de Mendoza thought best to get rid of the threat. But we have the advantage now. It may not feel like it, but we do. And he all but brings a fist into his open palm. We know something about this pyramid. We know, well, if this golden length that Rizzo had with her from the archives is what was taken from the pyramid all those years ago, maybe that's why we're here. Maybe we take it back to the pyramid. It's a bit of a leap. I mean, none of you were talking about destiny or being sent here by God or anything like that before now. And Jackson is suddenly possessed of a, well, let's call it a spirit. He actually he looks quite energized. And he says again, listen, we stopped a young woman from being murdered. But if these Cariceri do this, probably not in the cities normally, but if they plague the countryside, picking off farmers, shepherds and the like, who is going to report it other than as folklore? There could be any number of them out there. We have what I'm guessing is a fragment of this pyramid, if it's been stored in the museum all this time. We have a good idea of where this pyramid is, but more importantly, we might be able to get hold of Augustus Larkin. He might be able to take us there.
Do you think we should pretend that have the expedition go ahead and pretend like we don't know what's going on and keep an eye on Larkin that way?
Well, that's where we have to decide. We either maintain a ruse, which could be difficult, or we... And he looks in a sort of, I know this is slightly criminal, but way. We Shanghai him. We get him to take us to the pyramid. By force.
I'll nod at that to Jackson. Elias, I'm up for that.
We still don't know his motivations, correct? Larkin?
No. We know he was working with de Mendoza.
I'm all for if you guys want to Shanghai him. That sounds horrifying and colorful. We may be able to persuade him differently if we know exactly what it is that he wants.
What about the other members of the expedition? How much do we tell them? Corporal Metzger, Professor Melquiades.
That's actually what I was thinking, because if we let the expedition go ahead, we're endangering more people.
That's true.
Who don't know what's going on. If we take control of the expedition, we have less people to help us if things go bad.
Also true. And because we are sidestepping, that can't be possible at this point in our journey. I think it's safe to say that Mendoza is likely still alive, versus someone came and suspiciously collected his corpse and knew the moment that he died and was on standby and got past all of us and removed the body.
Even Jackson seems reluctant to admit that's the likely possibility, and so he just looks down at his feet.
My gaze drops towards his feet too, because I didn't want to say that out loud.
Whether he's still alive or has allies that are preternatural in origin, suffice to say, we have an enemy that now is in their best interest to stop us. I think that's clear.
Correct.
I feel like confronting
Larkin?
him confronting Larkin and finding out his motivation will give us a sense of a path forward.
Great. I spring out of my chair and head to the door with this expectant, like, well, let's go. It's probably my nervous system is moving faster than my thought process, but at this point, he's still alive, likely. He typically shelters during the day, we think, based on the information from the hotel. Let's get a move on this as quickly as possible before he does something to compromise Larkin further.
All right.
And so you rush from the museum. Rupert is the one to remember to bring the piece of worked gold with him. He dithers for a moment, as the three of you charge ahead and thinks, do I need to sign something to check this out of the museum? But not to, as there's no one to check, he just picks it up, slides it into his linen jacket. Well, I'm sure we'll bring it back. And runs on after you. And so we head back to the Hotel España, presumably, as that is where Larkin was.
That's where Larkin was last, yeah.
As you move on to the Hotel España, you can actually see Larkin is outside. He's in the street. He is looking around frantically as if he has lost a dog. Because, yes, his eyes are towards street level. And he has a real look of panic upon his face. There is a thick sheen of sweat on his forehead and running down his cheeks. He doesn't even acknowledge that it's you, your entire group, approaching him until you are pretty much within 5 feet of him, at which point he looks up. Have you seen Lewis?
Mr. Larkin, I say, and I begin. I put my arm around him and I begin leading him away from the street. I don't want this to happen in front of everyone. Come here.
My medicine. I need my medicine.
Oh yes, we'll get that for you right away. Just come with us first, and I'll try to lead him off into some more secluded place, less, not in front of everyone here at the street.
So you take him down the alley that not that long ago Madeline dropped into. A little further down its length so that you're not directly beneath the balcony of de Mendoza's room. Too many bad memories. What is Lewis down here? What's going on? What is this? What?
So, I shot de Mendoza at the back of the head. I blew his brains out.
You shot Lewis?
Yes, and then he seems to have crawled away. You know that he's not what he appears to be, right? Because you know that what's happening here is much more than it's supposed to be. This isn't just some normal expedition that's looking for treasure, is it? So the question now is, would you like me to give you the same kind of treatment and see if you also crawl away? Or would you like to tell us what's actually going on here and why you're leading us into our deaths?
His face twitches unnaturally. It twitches underneath his right eye, and then it twitches by his mouth. He smiles briefly and then frowns. It's like he's going through the whole range of emotions and isn't sure which one to land on. And you can see he is trying to find something in you, Felix. He is looking for something. Can I ask you to make a psychology roll?
That is an 85 over 10. I'm not going to try to critical this because I don't think I can get it.
Yes. What you're saying is true. It is true, he says. The Mendoza, he was a monster. Is a monster. Oh God, I am so glad that you've freed me of him.
Well, I mean, but surely you must have known.
He forced me. He knew that I had money. He wanted me to lead an expedition back to the pyramid, and I tried everything. I rejected people who came to me directly, but he forced me to put that damned ad in the paper. You're here under false pretenses. He wanted to bring you and all of your friends so that you could all serve as the buffet for his friends once he found them again. You see, he's lost. He's a lost puppy. You see, he doesn't know where his family is, where his pack is anymore since the city was built, and so he wanted me to help him because he knows I know a lot about the pyramids, and I found the location. You see, that's what happened. I found out where the pyramid was, and with it, then he realized it wouldn't be sufficient just to take me along. It was all his plan, you see.
And I find myself finding this quite believable. I mean, certainly with the kind of power that de Mendoza had, it could make sense. He doesn't have to be a part of this. He could be a victim. It's possible. I looked at the other two, having lost my conviction of putting the full pressure on this man. I find myself pitying him.
So I'm side-eyeing Larkin heavily, because 5 minutes ago he was frantically running around the street looking for this quote-unquote lost puppy. And that didn't look like it was fear that he got away or that he wasn't coming back. That was, where's my baby? So I'm just going to roll. May I roll a quick psychology to see how much of this I believe?
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Going under 45, and this is a 43.
So this would make it a regular success.
Correct.
You are sure that he is lying about something, but pinpointing exactly what, that would require a hard success. So if you want to spend luck to bump it down to a hard success, you can. But otherwise, you are just certain he is trying to mislead you, which may be enough.
So I'm going to drop this luck.
Okay, so you need to spend 21 luck.
All right, 21 luck, and this is coming off of the 56 that I have.
Madeline, as you watch as Larkin babbles and grovels and makes excuses and plays the victim, you can pinpoint exactly which parts of what he's saying are lies, which is pretty much everything. But beyond that, you can clearly make out that there is no panic in this man, not right now. He was panicked when he was looking for de Mendoza, but dealing with you, he is in complete control. He is trying to play the victim completely, but he sees you as nothing more than ants. You're bugs. You're nothing to be worried about. So, he has no pride. He doesn't need to lord it over you. He can be the simpering, grovelling, pathetic man if he needs to be, if that gets him out of this situation. But in terms of de Mendoza being in charge, no, that's not the case. In terms of de Mendoza wanting to take you to the pyramid so that you feed the buffet, that's not the case either. Larkin wants to take you there because Larkin wants you there for a different reason.
As he's babbling, as he's groveling, as he's rolling out this very convincing narrative, I just continue to inch towards him, step after step, and my eyes are locked onto his. So my eyes feel cold in this moment as I'm hyper-analyzing his intonation, his body language, the way that he's engaging in this honest to goodness, sincere performance that one day, with enough practice, I may actually be able to imitate or achieve. He's lying. He's lying about all of it. He hasn't said a single thing that's true. And you're good. You're really good. But you're lying about all of it.
And my grip around him tightens, and I put the Luger towards his side. Is she correct? Are you lying? Are you lying to us, Mr. Larkin?
As you put your Luger to him, there is a sudden change in Augustus Larkin. His eyes turn black, not just the pupils, but the white surrounding them. His body language is no longer hunched over, and he no longer looks like a weak dope fiend. Rather, he is imperious, and his voice develops an unearthly resonance.
You will treat Larkin with respect. If you do not, I will visit upon you an eternal torment beyond human comprehension.
At which point, his eyes go back to normal and he is simpering and grovelling again. He's clearly conscious on some level of what's just happened, but he is twitchy, looking left and right, frantically. So I guess the trip to the pyramid is off. I would suggest you still might want to go. You might still want to go. Because the worm is waiting. The worm is waking. And the worm wants to meet you. The worm wants to be guided out from his home and I will be the guide. I will be the herald, and you will carry me on a bier of gold.
I look to the other two with the Luger, very clearly on the side of Mr. Larkin still.
Yeah, he clearly does not give much of a shit about the fact there's a Luger pressed into him, but that's not to say Intimidate won't work. Felix, if you want to make an Intimidate roll now, if you can succeed on a hard roll, you might get through to whatever humanity Larkin has in there.
Yes, I will try to do that. That's an 11. An 11.
That is an extreme success. In that case, as his chuckling ceases, his eyes grow wet. Please, if you can't free me, just kill me. Just kill me, please. The worm is in me.
Nyarlathotep is in me.
And he controls everything and sees everything and only he can put me back together again. And just like that, he is no longer weak and he is no longer human. He is this vessel.
He is. And he told me what to do, and normally there was no way that I would ever even entertain doing what I'm about to do, because how could I? But after everything I've seen, and what he just did, I'll do as he asks. And I'll kill Mr. Larkin.
Okay, I'm not going to ask you to roll for that. Actually, I will ask you to roll just to see if you get a critical fail. Because, executions can go wrong. So make a firearms roll, please. But really, it's just a roll to see whether you get a 95 or higher.
That's a 31.
Well, that is definitely a success. Is this a bullet to the temple and bang?
Yes. I want to make it quick for him.
The bullet drills into the man's skull just behind the temple. His brains evacuate the pan, obviously within a split second, and shower the wall on the other side. There isn't much time for a look of gratitude from Augustus as he concertinas, his knees, his hips, his body folding and collapsing onto the ground. But you have just shot someone in public. No, you're not on the main thoroughfare. No, there are not a load of Peruvians in this alley around you. But you're not going to be able to hang around here.
No. I just look to the others and realizing what I've done, and we gotta go.
Make a sanity roll, Felix. It's one thing to kill someone in the heat of battle. Quite another to perform an execution in an alley.
That is 100.
Okay, lose 1d6 plus 2 sanity, please.
That is 6.
That's a hefty dose. Your mouth goes dry, the gun falls from your hand. You do know that you need to get out of here. Everything you have said, but you just realise the dawning realisation of what you've just done. The first life you have taken since 1918, especially now that De Mendoza is apparently still among the land of the living. It's only Rupert's voice that snaps you out of it. I brought the gold, you forgot that... Oh. He looks down the alley.
Rupert chap, I think it's time to pack our belongings and head on to our expedition.
Right, yes, everyone, split up, yes, split up, everybody! And he runs, as if having taken command over this situation just for a split second. Jackson Elias doesn't need to be told twice. He runs down the alley, Rupert running out into the street. Some of you may try and comport yourselves in more sedate fashion, walk away from the crime scene calmly, that sort of thing. But it's funny how shooting someone in the head can affect a different person differently. For instance, right now, Felix, you're just stood there. Shelby, Madeline, if Felix is going to get out of this before the cops arrive, you're going to have to pretty much frog march him.
Yeah, I'm going to grab him by the arm and Felix, we need to go. We need to go now.
I'm just frozen, but I guess if there's the two of you, you'll be able to pull me along.
I'm also going to pull the pistol out of his hand and slide it in my pocket.
After that shot rings out, and then you can see the cockroaches scattering in different directions, I am going to blink, stare almost in horror as his body collapses to the ground, and I just need to make sure he doesn't have anything on him that's of value. And I'm just going to very quickly pat down his jacket, his shirt, his pants, and pull everything and anything that I can. This isn't eluding as much as it is eluding. Then also he may have a map on him. He may have jewelry. He may have his ID on him. Whatever I can take off of him, I'm just going to take off of him before I'm going to help Shelby try to get Felix out of here.
A map. A map indeed. It is pretty basic. After all, Larkin told you that it was in his head. Maybe not his head, but maybe this Nyarlathotep knew. But perhaps on some level, Larkin knew that he had to try and exert control over the beast within him. And so there is a very simple map, scrawled on a napkin, that you extract from his pocket. Beyond that, nothing.
Okay. I capture the napkin. I look over at the body once more. I blink twice. And then I'm going to look to Shelby. I'm going to get back to the hotel, the second hotel. I can't even think of the hotel's name right now. España. There we go. Sorry. The España. I'm going to go back to the España. Can you get him out of here?
Yeah, I'll get him out of here. You go back in there, see if you can find anything in his room.
Okay, I'll meet you back. And does he have a key on him? Does he have his room key on him by any chance, Keeper?
He does not. That's an interesting point, but he doesn't.
Well, his door better be open, damn it. Okay, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go sweep his room, and then I'll meet you back at our hotel.
Alright, Felix or Shelby, one of you make a luck roll.
I'm going to suggest that I make the luck roll because I've not spent much of it lately. Oh, fuck, 96.
Well, we will see what happens with you in a moment. Madeline, you head into the Hotel España.
I do.
As you do so, the old lady, Petronilla, is still sat there mumbling to herself. She looks up at you. Was there a gunshot?
Strangest thing, I thought I heard it too. And I'm just going to keep walking by.
You head on upstairs, and sure enough, the room adjacent to yours, once the room of Larkin, the door is just wide open.
Oh, he came sprinting out trying to find his puppy. Okay. I'm not going to make eye contact with De Mendoza's door, but I will head into Larkin.
Larkin's room, in contrast to De Mendoza's, is chaotic and unpleasant, with suitcases spilling soiled clothing across the floor, personal effects covering almost every surface. He has clearly been living here for some time. The air in the room reeks of stale sweat and sickness.
Oof.
The sheets on his bed are soaked with an oily perspiration. There's a small stoppered glass bottle of, there was liquid. It's just steamed up now on the nightstand, along with a syringe.
Okay.
There is a label on the bottle written in Spanish. It is spelled heroína. What are you doing in here, now that you can see the terrible state that this room is in?
I'm going to stop myself from gagging, and then I'm going to do a thorough sweep. Because once the police do identify that body, they're going to come back here. And I need to make sure anything that has a reference to, tongue, Colt, Nyarlathotep, whatever he said, map, the expedition, any contracts, anything that he's already like pre-arranged or preset, any type of paperwork, anything that I can capture, I'm taking with me. I'll throw it all into his suitcase if I have to march out of here with it.
Excellent. I'm not going to make you roll for that. You're basically grabbing everything that looks possibly pertinent, throwing it into a suitcase, and taking it away. It is as simple as that. Are you going back to De Mendoza's room?
No, we're good. I don't even make eye contact with that direction.
You think you might have heard a bump in that room. And you speed up. Where are you eating tonight? Says the old lady in the lobby as you just march past. Now, Felix, Shelby, your pace back to the Hotel Mori is a fast one, as fast as you can make it, Shelby. But Felix, you are still in a state of some shock. It isn't just that you shot a guy and killed him. There's also a part of it of where it was Shelby taking your gun away from you. There's something on some level emasculating about that. It's telling you, much as they told you in 1918, you can't serve anymore. You're not a soldier anymore. You can't just shoot the enemy anymore. Give us your gun. You're being demobbed.
Yeah. And that happening again now, it makes me angry. Where's my gun? Look, I need my gun.
I have it. It's probably not good to be seen carrying a gun right now, given what just happened. I'll give it back to you.
No, but I'm not. But I need it. I need it on me because we might need it. I need my gun. Shelby.
Okay. Matthew, is the Luger a revolver or does it have a clip?
That's a very good question. Yes, I believe it does have a clip.
I'm pretty familiar with firearms, so I want to see if I can push the button to eject the clip while it's in my pocket before I hand him the gun back.
Alright then. I will allow you to either make a dexterity roll or a firearms roll, whichever you prefer here.
Definitely dexterity.
And then it will be entirely up to you, Maciej, whether well, no, you know what? I don't think Felix is going to notice in his heightened state.
Not right now, probably.
88 over 85, but I'm going to spend 3 luck points to make that happen.
And so the Luger passes from your pocket into Felix's hand.
There you go. Here's your gun.
Okay, good. That's good. Right, we should keep going.
Felix, the upshot of the dreadfully failed luck roll is not that you get intercepted by the police, but it's that your sanity loss, even though it wasn't you who rolled it, because yes, bad rolls from one player can negatively affect another. It's that your sanity loss is something a little more severe. It is this. You now have a itchy trigger finger. That is how you would describe it politely. You are right now very agitated and prone to resolving any situation you can with violence. So that gun is probably going to stay in your hand, and your hand will stay in your pocket on that gun, but you are itching to draw it again, to prove that you are still a soldier.
Yeah, I am, and the war isn't over. It's just continuing now, and we're fighting different enemies, but the war's back on, and I have a role to play.
Ultimately, our entire crew of investigators make it back to the Hotel Mori, one at a time or in groups of 2. It feels like mockery that you can hear Hugo and Isabella laughing in the bar. They've obviously had a grand old day. Rupert is drenched in sweat. He's been lugging around a chunk of gold. It's the first time it looks like he's done a hard day's work in his life. He isn't complaining about it. He looks scared. Jackson Elias enters. He pats Rupert on the back. Rupert whirls around. Jackson gives him a swift hug, during which the gold is transferred from Rupert to Jackson. Each of you makes your way, respectively, back to your hotel rooms, where for a few minutes at least you can calm down, but you know you're not going to have the opportunity to do so for long. You need to get out of Lima. This cannot be where you rest your head. Whether it's the cops looking for you, whether it's Luis de Mendoza, who is apparently up and around, or whether it is that god that spoke through the lips of Augustus Larkin, Lima is no longer safe. Investigators, I'm going to ask you now. Are you taking all of your luggage and jumping on the next truck out of Lima? And if so, are you headed in the direction of the pyramid, or are you intending on getting out of Peru? Both are equally valid options.
I think we should get together, 3 of us, plus Jackson and Rupert, and not anybody else.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And once we are together, perhaps even in Shelby's room, the hotel.
That'll work.
We need to make a decision. Jackson, clearly you are the person who knows the most of what's going on, so I would very much value your expert opinion on what you think we should do.
He smiles at that. It's rare enough that you're considered an expert at something. Back where I'm from, but I'm sorry, all of you. I have to find out more. It's not just so that I can write another book. If we have this artifact, and he basically knocks the gold in his jacket, it's not nearly so thin as to make a ting sound, but you can hear the metal reverberating. From what that paper said, this curse was unleashed in the Andes when this gold was taken. And since then it has probably passed hands hundreds of times and ended up in this museum. I need to find out the truth of it. I need to find out what is there, and I need to put this back in its place, if I genuinely believe that it was sealing in some kind of darkness. Now, that isn't me saying that you need to come with me. I will try to do it by myself. Obviously, I would appreciate your company. It's been great fun so far, but none of you signed up for this. You signed up for an expedition, sure, but not monsters, not murder. And he says that looking away from Felix. Maybe on some level he doesn't understand why Larkin got shot.
How about you, Madeline? How do you feel?
I agree. I didn't sign up for monsters or fat vampires or whatever else this is, but what we have is Mendoza on the loose, and whatever that thing was beneath Larkin that promised that if we weren't nice to him, it would haunt us. So no, I didn't sign up for monsters or fat vampires or any of this, but that's what we have in front of us. We have to run. But at this point, it's a choice. Are we going to run away from this situation and let it hunt us down? Or haunt us? Or are we going to run towards some type of conclusion?
We gotta win the war. Right? We take this thing back. This time we finish this. And we win.
How about you, Rupert?
Me? Where you go, I go. Shelley, I'm not heading home by myself. I'm not really looking forward to more mosquitoes. But if we're all in danger, that I tried to get in that Mendoza fellow's way, remember?
It's true, you did.
He might remember that. It's not that I'm scared, you understand. I'm not a coward. It's just I feel like we're stronger if we're together, aren't we?
You, more than anyone, never signed up for any of this, so I just want to make sure that you're willing to follow this road.
He claps his thighs. Well, Shelbs, the way I see it is this. We're down a financier. So it's time that I started pulling my weight in my wallet, isn't it? This expedition needs funding. Now this is the Rupert Carruthers expedition. Let's make it into the broadsheets.
With all the fame and glory that comes with it.
Well, quite.
Well, then I guess we're decided. Perhaps then we should use your pockets to get our luggage and get out of here.
And so that is what occurs. Our investigators leave Lima behind them, hot-footing it out of the city and toward the Andes, toward Puno and toward the pyramid of Nyarlathotep. And we will see what awaits them in our next session.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we play Masks of Nyarlathotep for Chaosium's Call of Cthulhu 7th edition. Joining us as our keeper is none other than our dear friend Matthew Dawkins, and we were also joined by Bridgett Jeffries and Eddy Webb. The music was made by Aegersonus and Halgrath, and we've also used Cryochamber's Lovecraftian compilation albums. All of this with the permission of Cryochamber. Check out their website at cryochamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel for some moody dark ambient for your gaming table. We would like to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon, Martin Heuschober, Simon Cooper, Julia, Camilla, Bob Lange, Cameron, Graham Barey, Doug Thomson, Lily, Maciej, Black Templar, Dennis Sadecki, and Leonhardt for their generous support. You would of course also like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, this show would not be possible. If you want to support our work, please check us out on Patreon. You can get access to bonus campaigns for Cult of the Lost, Call of Cthulhu, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, and Warhammer 40k Imperium Maledictum there. And you can also get early and raw access to all of our recordings, and hear your name read on the show as a champion of the Red Moon, as well as even play some Cult with us. Most importantly, that support is what keeps the show going, so do check us out there. Thank you again for listening, and remember, I am the last. I will tell the Audient Void.